Well, religious tensions in Lebanon have erupted after the murder of a well-known Christian politician, Pascal Sleiman. A Syrian gang is believed to have kidnapped and murdered Sleiman, who was a strong believer and senior member of the Christian Lebanese Forces Party. Experts calling it a political assassination linked to Hezbollah that was meant to frighten the Christian community and whoever else opposes the group's fight against Israel. Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah took to the airwaves shortly after the government announced Sleiman's murder, accusing Christians of stirring up chaos. Sleiman's killing has sparked a flare-up of Christian-Muslim tensions, leading to talk of possible civil war. But I thought they were already in a civil war. Maybe I'm confused. Here to discuss it, the president of Summit Ministries, Dr. Jeff Myers. Jeff, nice to see you.
Good to see you, Steve. A lot of confusing stuff here.
Yeah. Now, this is just one example of Christians being targeted in a variety of places around the globe right now. Let's focus on this one, but this is by no means unique, is it?
This is not unique, Steve. Christians have experienced significantly growing persecution around the world. There are 365 million Christians under persecution at the present time in the world, according to the World Watch report. And what's happening in Lebanon is another example of that. I know some members of the Sleiman family, and this is horrifying, but it's not surprising given Iran's influence in Lebanon, Hezbollah's inclination toward this apocalyptic Shia idea of the return of the 12th Imam, and oh man, so many other variables.
Yeah, so what do you do? I mean, you've got a country, Lebanon, it hasn't been stable in my entire life, really. I mean, it's been a mess pretty much my entire life. It's warlords and factions and Muslim on this side and Christian over there. A lot less Christian today than there ever been in Lebanon. Well, what do you do about it? Anything?
Well, the number of Christians, that is true. It's gone down from 40% to probably 30% in just the last 10 or so years. So there's clearly a lot of persecution there. This is an unstable political system. I think what has to be done is that somehow we've got to help Lebanon develop a politically stable system and give its military the ability to eliminate Hezbollah, which is what they were originally supposed to do, according to the peace accords. But yes, this is a relatively new country. 1943 is its founding. There was no natural country there. It's not like Israel, where the people were in the land for 3,000 plus years. So it's a political invention of the United Nations, and unfortunately, like a lot of other political inventions of the United Nations, the chickens come home to roost.
Right. And, here's the thing, Jeff, because I mentioned it, there are several places in Africa right now, Christians being persecuted, being murdered. It's happening here. It's happening in Africa. It's happening in other places. Christians seem to be on the receiving end. And, you look at the cheering in the streets of America, from the river to the sea, cheering for the deaths of Jews, cheering for the death to America, deaths for Christians. We just seem to be on the losing end of this deal a little bit too often anymore.
I think, unfortunately, you're correct. The parades in the streets of America are sponsored by, organized by, and informed by Hamas. And this has now become clear. You saw the recent one in Dearborn, Michigan, where people were quoting the Ayatollah Khomeini from Iran as their source for their anti-American agenda. It's hard to even believe these people are in America. But as long as there's this Palestinian conflict and this drive by all of the parties involved to annihilate Israel, it's not going to get better. If America wavers in its support for Israel right now, I cannot even explain the devastation that's going to bring and the instability to that region.
Yeah, so here's my question. I mean, you look at the leadership from this White House, or a lack thereof, right? I think it leads here. I mean, this soft approach to Iran, for example, and there's no other way. This is soft. This is a spineless approach to Iran. Oh, Israel, do not retaliate. Let's just take the win. What win do we have here? Is October the 7th a win? But they were able to go through Gaza and eradicate Hamas, who hit under hospitals and schools. That's a win. That's not a win. Here, unconditional surrender. That's a win. That's how you define unconditional surrender from the people that attacked on October 7th, period. And you hold them accountable however you see fit in that country. Iran does not get to be the neighborhood bully without consequence. There's action and there's consequences. And I think Joe Biden and his entire administration are completely off base by asking Israel to do anything. Oh, and Israel, if you go ahead and retaliate for being attacked again, we're not going to support you. I'm sorry. What happened to U.S. foreign policy, Jeff?
Well, this is sort of like, if a kid is blamed by his teacher for not eating lunch because the bully stole his money, you have to focus on who the bully is, and it's clearly Iran in this situation. Iran is in complete control of Hezbollah. They have 100,000 rockets aimed at Israel, 100,000 fighters ready to go in at their command. They're in control of all the funding for Hamas. Their agenda is anti-Israel. And Steve, you can't understand it if you just think about it geopolitically. You have to understand it as theopolitical. This group in Iran these are Shia Islamists, and they believe that their 12th Imam that they look forward to cannot return as long as the state of Israel exists. So literally the existence of the state of Israel prevents them from achieving their religious aims. That's pretty intractable. And there's no way to deal with that except to force these people to back down.
So it's kill or be killed, I guess, is their mentality. So they kill the Christians, they kill the Jews, they eradicate. Of course, that's part of the doctrine, right? That's part of the doctrine. So no peace in sight, Jeff. That's what you're telling me.
Well, I think what we need to learn as Americans is that these situations cannot be solved, but they can be managed. And you manage them through sanctions. You manage them through a tough approach on Iran, which this administration has really wavered on, as did the Barack Obama administration. And then we also have to recognize, Steve, that the ultimate enemy of people in Iran is Judeo-Christian civilization. It is not just Israel. Israel to them is just a proxy of the entire system of Judeo-Christian civilization needs to be overthrown. And unfortunately, people in the streets in America, especially Gen Z, are falling for this.
From Summit Ministries, Dr. Jeff Myers. Jeff, I always appreciate you being here, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, there you have it. It's Christians and Jews targeted all over the planet. It's happening. You don't hear about it as much as you should.